Welcome to Quiz Class. I'm Ellen, your host, and today we have a 100-question general knowledge quiz. Let's get started. Which desert is considered to be the largest in the world? Kalahari Desert, the Great Basin Desert, or the Antarctic Polar Desert? The Antarctic Polar Desert. In 1951, a famous actor was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Who was this actor? Elvis Presley, Clint Eastwood, or Jimmy Stewart? Clint Eastwood. Who was the famous painter who cut off a portion of his ear? Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Picasso, or Vincent van Gogh? Vincent van Gogh. What is the most isolated point or location in the world? Point Nemo, the Mariana Trench, or the Bermuda Triangle? Point Nemo. The first step to German reunification, known as the fall of the Berlin Wall, took place in November of which year? 1988, 89, or 1889? 1989. In 1959, the three-point seatbelt was invented by Niels Bohlin, who worked for which automobile company? Volvo, Ford, or Peugeot? Volvo. Who was the astronomer who led the scientific revolution? Isaac Newton, René Descartes, or Nicholas Copernicus? Nicholas Copernicus. In 1923, a physician received a Nobel Prize for discovering insulin, marking another medical breakthrough. Who was this doctor? John MacLeod, Frederick Banting, or Jonas Salk? Frederick Banting. What treaty was signed by the United States of America and the Kingdom of Spain in 1898, relinquishing standards possession of the Philippine Islands to the Americans? The Treaty of Guadalupe, Venice, or the Treaty of Paris? The Treaty of Paris. This famous inventor built the cotton gin, which allowed separating the seeds from the cotton fibers more efficiently back in 1793. Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, or Eli Whitney? Eli Whitney. Which theory of Albert Einstein's theory states that the laws of physics are the same for all frames and that the speed of light does not change for any observer? The theory of special relativity, quantum theory of light, or photoelectric effect? The theory of special relativity. Who is the German sociologist who coined the term proletariat, is a critique of capitalism, and wrote the book Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto? Max Weber, Harriet Martineau, or Karl Marx? Karl Marx. Who was the very first and only woman to receive 2 Nobel Prizes in 1903 and 1911 for her discovery of plutonium, radium, and mercury? Maria Mayer, Marie Curie, or Irene Curie? Marie Curie. The incubation period of a disease refers to what? The period of immunization against the pathogen, the period of infection before clinical signs are showing, or the period of full recovery? The period of infection before clinical signs show. This animal may sound happy, but their laugh signifies feeling threatened. Baboon, crow or hyena? The hyena. Who was the famous English playwright that was dubbed the upstart crow and bard of Avon? William Shakespeare, Robert Greene, or Arthur Conan Doyle? William Shakespeare. What was the greatest and longest economic recession that took place from 1929 to 1941? The Dust Bowl, the crash of the stock market, or the Great Depression? The Great Depression. The main component of antacids that relieve stomach acids are made out of water, bases, or acids. Bases. The largest volcanic caldera, known as Apalaki, is found in which country? Hawaii, Malaysia, or the Philippines? The Philippines. Which of these quotes did Patrick Henry say? I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. We must all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. Or you can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill the revolution. And it's the first one. In which year of the Cold War did the space race begin? 1956, 1957, or 1958? (1957). Which country is known to hold the most radioactive place on Earth? The Ukraine, the USA, or Japan? Japan. Which animal can exceed 186 miles per hour, making it the fastest creature in the entire animal kingdom? The cheetah, the sailfish, or the peregrine falcon? The peregrine falcon. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was caused by which bacteria? Enterocolitica, pestis, or pseudotuberculosis? Pestis. Which U.S. president was attacked by a swamp rabbit while fishing? Herbert Hoover, Dwight Eisenhower, or Jimmy Carter? Jimmy Carter. The Magellan Strait links which oceans? Atlantic and Pacific, Indian and Pacific, or Southern Ocean and Atlantic Ocean? The Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. What was Anne Hathaway's father's occupation? Fisherman, professor, or farmer? Farmer. The largest underground animal, prairie dog colony, measuring about 25,000 square miles, is found in which area? Texas, Canada, or Mexico? Texas. In what year was slavery formally abolished after the 13th Amendment was passed? 1864, 1866, or 1865? 1865. Who was the second known female who successfully flew solo across the Atlantic Ocean in the United States? Raymond LaRoche, Bessie Coleman, or Amelia Earhart? Amelia Earhart. Who was the first female to earn a pilot license, won the Femina Cup in 1913, and set 2 altitude records? Raymond LaRoche, Amelia Earhart, or Jacqueline Cochran? Raymond LaRoche. A small colony of English settlers located on the eastern coast of North America was founded in 1587. 3 years after its founding, it mysteriously disappeared. What is this colony known as? Roanoke, Massachusetts Bay, or Jamestown? Roanoke. During World War I, a pathogen bacterium was used as a weapon to infect the livestock and feeds distributed to countries allied with Germany. What is this bacterium? Dysentery, subtilis, or anthracis? Anthracis. What 80s video game was derived from a Japanese slang term? Pac-Man, Tetris, or Janken-Pon? Pac-Man. Who wrote the book On the Origin of Species? Ernst Mayr, Charles Darwin, or Alfred Wallace? Charles Darwin. During his voyage to the Galapagos Islands, which animal did Charles Darwin study to formulate his theory of evolution? Penguins, finches, or sea lions? Finches. What was the name of the intelligence agency of the Soviets? KGB, CIA, or SALT? KGB. President Truman signed the Marshall Plan in 1948. What was the goal of this act? To drive out the communists from the US, to provide assistance and stability to post-war Europe's economy, or to infiltrate the Soviet intelligence agency? To provide assistance to post-war Europe. How old is the oldest fossil currently in records? 3.8 billion, 2.5 billion, or 3.5 billion years old? $3.5 billion years old. Aspirin was originally made with the bark from which tree? The pine tree, the willow tree, or the ginkgo tree? The willow tree. During the Cold War, this American figure gained notoriety after being caught taking aerial photos of the USSR. Francis Powers, Allen Dulles, or Dwight Eisenhower? Francis Powers. Penicillin was discovered by whom? Alexander Graham Bell, Alexander Friedman, or Alexander Fleming? Alexander Fleming. When did Chernobyl open for tourists? 2004, 2011, or 1997? 2011. What was the name of the dog sent into space? Lyra, Laika, or Lara? Laika. How many Chernobyl workers died instantly when the initial steam explosion happened? 5, 215, or 2? 2. Who invented the first electric-powered refrigerator in 1913? Fred Wolf, Ferdinand Carr, or William Durant? Fred W. Wolf. Which amendment in the U.S. Constitution limited the number of times an individual can be elected as president? The Fifth Amendment, the 16th Amendment, or the 22nd Amendment? The 22nd Amendment. What famous device was invented by René Laennec? The stereoscope, the stethoscope, or the microscope? The stethoscope. When was the first chariot invented? 3000 BCE, 2000 BCE, or 4000 BCE? 3000 BCE. What is the oldest living fossil currently known to man? Cyanobacteria, Dendrogramma, or Greenland shark? Cyanobacteria. A bioterrorist attack occurred in 2001 throughout the USA. The Bacillus anthracis, or anthrax, was spread throughout what or through what? Water, mail, or food? Through the mail. How old is Ming, the oldest clam, when it was accidentally killed and destroyed by scientists? 520, 507, or 407? 507. Who was the English inventor who developed the first successful steam-powered engine? Alexander Parkes, Thomas Edison, or Thomas Newcomen? Thomas Newcomen. Which country did the Universal Postal Union exempt from putting their name on postage stamps? Great Britain, USA, or Germany? Great Britain. What was the name of the bomb dropped in Nagasaki, Japan during World War II? Fat Man, Fat Boy, or Little Man? Fat Man. Who was an American theoretical physicist who created the formula for the atomic bomb and is also known as the father of the atomic bomb? Albert Einstein, Robert Oppenheimer, or Richard Feynman? Robert Oppenheimer. Ruling for 72 years, who was the longest ruling monarch? Queen Elizabeth II, King Louis XIV, or Bhumibol Adulyadej? King Louis XIV. Who was the monarch who was persecuted and received the death penalty after being found guilty of conspiring with foreign powers? King Louis XIV, Mary I of England, or Marie Antoinette, Queen of France? Marie Antoinette. Who was a famous pool player dubbed the Magician and was inducted into the Billiard Congress of America's Hall of Fame in 2003? Efren Reyes, Mike Seigel, or Allison Fisher? Ephraim Reyes. In an attempt to restore Catholicism in England, Queen Mary I earned the title Bloody Mary because of what? She executed Protestant heretics by burning them at the stake, she persecuting people in the guillotine, or having people beheaded. She executed Protestant heretics. Which pigment gives flamingos their pink hue? Beta-carotene, chlorophyll A, or chlorophyll B? Beta-carotene. The Sistine Chapel is renowned for which of Michelangelo's paintings? Renaissance frescoes, Doni Tondo, or The Last Judgment? Renaissance frescoes. Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded the Microsoft company in a garage in which city in New Mexico? Albuquerque, Santa Fe, or Roswell? Albuquerque. Who was the Filipino engineer and physicist who invented the first two-way video telephone? Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido, Casimiro Villacin del Rosario, or Gregorio Zara? Gregorio Zara. Who was the military leader who led his soldiers in invading Rome by crossing the Alps while on an elephant? Hannibal, Gaius Aurelius, or Strategus? Hannibal. When was the French Revolution said to have begun? 1799, 1789, or 1788? (1789). What major event in 1945 marked the beginning of the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union? The surrender of the German Nazi, the fall of the Berlin Wall, or the space race? The surrender of the German Nazi. I Have a Dream was delivered by which American civil rights activist? Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, or John F. Kennedy? Martin Luther King Jr. Who was the legendary king who led the Knights of the Round Table against the invading Saxons back in the 16th century? King Richard Lionheart, King Arthur of Camelot, or King Frederick I of Barbarossa? King Arthur of Camelot. Which plant is said to only bloom every 100 years? Giant Himalayan lily, Agave americana, or Puya raimondi? Agave americana. Which industrial revolution saw the rise in the fields of steel, chemicals, electricity, and more? The first, the third, or the second? The second. Which country is dubbed as the Pearl of the Indian Ocean? The Philippines, Sri Lanka, or India? Sri Lanka. The ethnological expositions, or human zoos, were linked to which German animal trader? Karl Hagenbeck, Dan Zenger, or Johann Gutenberg? Karl Hagenbeck. In what year did the Crystal Palace of London, UK burn down? 1936, 1851, or 1926? 1936. Following the explosion of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor, how long did it take for the fire to die down? 7 days, 12 days, or 10 days? 10 days. Who is currently the most radioactive person in the world? Marie Curie, Hisashi Uchi, or Antoine Becquerel? Hisashi Uchi. Joseph Bell and his team of 24 engineers, 6 electrical engineers, 2 boilermakers, a plumber, and a clerk all died in the sinking of which ship? The Titanic, Olympic, or Britannica? The Titanic. Who was given credit for inventing the microscope and later on earned the title Father of Microscopy? Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, Hans Janssen, or Francis Bacon? Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Who assassinated the former American president Abraham Lincoln? Henry Rathbone, John Wilkes Booth, or Harry Hawke? John Wilkes Booth. What was the name of the farmhouse that was captured and recaptured by the French and Allied forces, respectively, in the means of securing a stronghold during the Battle of Waterloo? Edward McPherson Farm, St. Gutenberg Farm, or La Haye Sainte? La Haye Sainte. Which of Andreas Vesalius's books made a pivotal moment in the history of anatomy? De Humani Corporis, Andreas Vesalius's China Root Epistle, or Tabulae Anatomicae? De Humani Corporis. Which trade route is known for connecting the Western world with the Middle East and Asia, exporting goods and disseminating religion during the Han Dynasty? The Silk Road, Incense Route, or Amber Road? The Silk Road. Who invented the phonograph, incandescent light bulb, motion picture camera, and the electric power distribution system? Marconi, Edison, or Watt? Thomas Edison. When did Carl Benz receive the patent for the motor wagon? January 29, 1886, January 29, 1876, or January 27, 1886? January 29, 1886. Which U.S. president served the shortest term due to dying from pneumonia? Zachary Taylor, James Garfield, or William Henry Harrison? William Henry Harrison. Who was the historical figure who died after having approximately 40% of his blood drained as treatment? George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, or James Madison? That's Abraham Lincoln, James Madison, or George Washington? George Washington. Which of these species serves as an indicator of a healthy freshwater ecosystem? Sturgeons, salmon, or lamprey? Sturgeons. What was the first and the oldest surviving film to this day? The Story of the Kelly Gang, Roundhay Garden Scene, or A Trip to the Moon? Roundhay Garden Scene. In 1941, the very first TV commercial was launched. What product was it advertising? Bulova watches, Royal Mint, or Mr. Potato Head? Bulova watches. Who performed the first true cataract extraction? Jose Rizal, John Hunter Planck, or Jacques Daviel? Jacques Daviel. Who was dubbed the greatest imposter who convinced the Royal Canadian Navy that he was a qualified surgeon despite not having any medical experience and became a naval surgeon? Ferdinand Waldo de Mara, Gregor MacGregor, or Joseph Weil? Ferdinand Waldo de Mara. The four greatest inventions, papermaking, printing, gunpowder, and the compass, were invented in which country? Korea, Great Britain, or China? China. Who was the monarch who was treated by having 24 ounces of his blood drained as part of his treatment regimen for seizures? Henry VIII, Charles II, or Richard II? Charles II. What pivotal event took place that incited the beginnings of World War I? The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, Adolf Hitler's invasion of Poland, or the death of John Joseph Pershing? The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Who was the first prisoner to be shipped off to Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary before it even officially opened? Frank Morris, Frank Lucas Bolt, or Arthur Baker? Frank Lucas Bolt. Which aria written by Mozart depicts a story about a mother in a fit of rage forced a knife into the hands of her daughter to kill her husband? Dove Sono I by Moment, Queen of the Night aria, or Papageno's aria? Queen of the Night aria, excuse my pronunciation. The chainsaw was originally invented to assist in what? Childbirth, cutting trees, or amputation? Childbirth. The World Wide Web, or WWW, was introduced to the public in when? March 30th, 1991, May 30th, 1992, or April 30th, 1993? April 30th, 1993. Who was the physician known as the father of hand hygiene who introduced hand washing to mitigate the risk of transmission of infectious diseases? Claude Bernard, Ignaz Semmelweis, or Rudolf Virchow? Ignaz Semmelweis. Feudalism emerged during the Dark Ages. Lords grant a piece of land to their vassals in exchange for loyalty and military service. What do they call this land? Farm, serfdom, or fief? Fief. Bonus question. In which year did the Beatles release their iconic album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band? In 1963 or 1967? Let us know the answer in the comments. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you next time.